Welcome back, everyone. So we are doing the second lesson for linear relations part 2 today. Last week we focused on point of intersection of two lines by graphing, and this week we're going to take a look at standard form, which is ax plus by plus c equals 0. But before we get to standard form, I just want to go through and do a warm-up question by taking a look at two equations and seeing what the point of intersection is. So a word problem, we have two containers A and B, which are filled with water. The valves to empty both containers are open at the same time. The equations give the volume V in milliliters and of the water remaining after a given time in minutes. All right, so we've got two containers, container A and container B, and they are being emptied at different rates, and they are also starting at a different volume. Okay, so first question says, what is the slope of container A, this container here? So you should see that this is in the form y equals mx plus b. Our m would be negative 20, and then our b would be 180. All right, so the m is the slope, which is going to be the speed of the water leaving the container, and then our 180 is our b, which is our y-intercept, or the initial amount. So right away you can see that this container is going to have 180 milliliters in it to start off, and the water is leaving at 20 milliliters per minute. All right, so slope of A is negative 20, and the slope of B is going to be negative 10. What does each slope represent? So it's the volume of the water, which is decreasing at 20 milliliters per minute. So it's the speed of the water that's leaving the container. And then for B, it's decreasing by 10 milliliters per minute. From which container is the water emptying faster? So I would say container A, because it has a larger slope. So the speed is going to be faster. All right, for question D, you're asked to graph the two equations. All right, so a little refresher of how to graph. You want to start with the y-intercept first. So the green line is represented by the first equation. I've got my graphs already on there. I'll just explain how I graph them. So starting at 180, which is your starting amount on the y-axis, that's your starting point. You need a second point. From there, you're going to use a slope. Our slope is negative 20 over 1. All right, so you're going to go down 20 and over to the right 1. There's your second point. Down 20 again, over to the right 1. Down 20 over 1. You can see the pattern repeats all the way down. All right, so you really just need 2 points, and then you can join them and extend your line, or you can continue the pattern to make your line a little bit more exact. It's a bit hard to graph when you just have two little points that are close together. It's hard to keep the slope perfect. So I would continue with more points before adding my line. And then the same method for container B. So you're starting at 130 milliliters up here, and then the slope for that is negative 10 over 1. So you're going to go down 10 over 1, down 10 over 1, and just continue the pattern all the way. Question E, what are the t-intercepts? So t is time, so the intercepts along the t-axis down here. We have a t-intercept of container A. What is that going to be? 4, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like 9. Okay. And then for the red line for container B, it's going to be 13. So what do those values mean? Right? It's if you're looking at the volume of the water is decreasing as time is changing. Right? So down here, the volume of the water is 0. Okay, so it's the time when the container is empty. So 9, 0 and 13, 0. And what does it represent? It's when the container is empty. All right, when do both containers have the same amount of water? Well, that would be where the lines cross, right? So after 5 minutes, the volume for both of the containers is going to be 80 milliliters. What is the amount of water these containers hold? So I just said that, 80 milliliters. All right, so that was the word problem. Now we're going to head into the standard form. And what we're going to do is this is the equation, all right? So it has to look like this. It has to be A, so some kind of number with X plus some kind of number with B with Y plus some kind of number without any letter equals 0. And we are listing what the values of A, B, and C are first, and then I will tell you what the rules are for making your equation look like this every time. Okay, so for here, we're just listing what the values of A, B, and C are. So A is always with the X, B is always with the Y, and C is the constant at the end, and it has to be equal to 0. All right, so for the first equation, you can see that A will be 5, the Y is going to be -2, and C is going to be 11. Okay, it's already in the right form. Over here, we've got an X, Y, and then no constant, which means a constant would be a 0. A, the number in front of the X would be 1. If there's nothing written in front of the letter, there's always a 1. And then B will be 6. Third example, we don't have an X term here, which means that A will be 0, B will be 4, and then C will be 9. And the last one, value in front of the X is 1. We don't have a Y term, so B is 0, and then the constant at the end is -7. Okay, so that's easy to do when they're in the right form. Sometimes they're not, and you'll have to rearrange them, and I will show you how. So what are the rules for standard form? All right, it must be in order, okay? So you need to have your AX plus BY plus C. They have to be in that order, X, Y, and then a constant. A, B, and C must be integers, so that means you can't have fractions or decimals. If you do, I'll show you how to change, how to get rid of them so you don't have them. And then first term A is must be positive. All right, if it's a negative value, what you want to do is divide all the terms by -1, and that will eliminate that negative value. If A is missing, then B has to be positive. That has to be the first term. And the last thing you want to pay attention to is making sure that the equations are in lowest terms. You need to have a common factor of 1. So if you have values that can be divided by a common value, you have to lower those. All right, so for example 2, we're going to take a look at these equations here and decide whether they're in standard form or not. So thinking back to the rules on the last page, think about whether each of these are in standard form. So for the first one, we've got 3x plus 7 minus 9. First term is positive. They're in lowest terms. I don't see any fractions or decimals, so I would say this is in standard form, and it is. Okay, B, what's wrong with this one here? Well, right away you can see that the last term is a decimal, and so we can't have that. So the way to eliminate that would be to multiply every single term by 10. Right, if you multiply 2.8 by 10, that will change this to 28. You'll have -10y, and this will be 40x. So to fix that, it would be 40x minus 10y minus 28 is equal to 0. And then you'd have to take one more step and reduce this to lowest terms, right? So think about what number can you divide 40, 10, and 28 by, and it looks like it would be 2. So this would reduce to 20x minus 5y minus 14 equals 0, and then it would be standard form. This one here, it looks like there's a negative here, which is a problem, so I would divide everything by -1 to eliminate that. D, we've got 4y minus 8. This one can be reduced, right? So you can divide each of these terms by 4 to give you y minus 2 equals 0. This one here, I can see that the x and the y are flipped, right? You need to have this as your first term. When you do that, you're moving the sign with it, so you'll end up with -8x plus 5y plus 1 equals 0, and then you'll have to divide everything by -1 because you can't have a negative value to start in your equation. And then the last one, this looks okay here, except you're starting with 0 equals. You want to have that at the end. So all you need to do is just move that to the right-hand side and have 3x plus 2y minus 6 equals 0, and then it will be correct. And for the last example, example 3, we are going to correct these equations here to make them in standard form. So you want to make sure, you want to start off making sure that all the equations are on one side. It doesn't matter which side they are on. as long as they are on the same side. So because you want this to be positive, I would start by moving this over to the left and then also moving this over to the left. Right? So when you do that, you will have 6x plus y minus 4 equals 0. Okay, so that was easy. This one here, the positive 2x is on the right, and we want that to be positive. So I think the easiest thing to do is just to move the y over to the right. Okay, so now you have 2x subtract y, because it will change signs as it moves over, minus 3. Now the 0 is on the wrong side, so you literally just need to take that and move it over to the right, and you will be good. Question C. This one has that fraction at the bottom we can get rid of. Okay, but what I did first here is I moved this term over to the right. I did that first, and then now it's all on the same side. Now I'm going to get rid of this 2, and the way I'm going to do that is by multiplying every term by 2. And we know how to do that. We've done that lots of times. I'm going to take each of our terms and multiply them by 2. Because now you'll have 2 times 5, which is 10, divided by 2 is 5, and it will eliminate that fraction for you. Oh, I meant to do that on this line here. That's okay. I'll just get rid of that. Okay, yeah, that looks good. And I also moved the 0 over to the right in that line there. All right, D, the last one. And I've got 2 methods for this question here. So the first method, what you can try is you can divide each of the terms by 0.03, right? That will eliminate this fraction here. Sometimes when you do that, it doesn't eliminate the decimals, the other decimals, or it might even create another decimal. In this case, it does work. You do end up with nice whole numbers. Okay, and then in the last step, I just moved the 1,000 over to the left-hand side and made it equal to 0. So another method you might want to consider, if you don't eliminate all the decimals with this method, if you still end up with some decimals, what you can do is if you move the decimal over to the right 2 places for each of these, it will eliminate the decimal. And so you do that by multiplying every term by 100, right? 0.03 times 100 is 3, 0.12 times 100 is 12, and then you have to do it to the last term as well. You have to do the same thing to all 3 terms. So 30 times 100 is 3,000. Okay, so that eliminated all of the decimals. Now you can move the 3,000 over to the left and it would become minus 3,000, and then divide everything by 3. Okay, or you can divide everything by 3 first and then move your 1,000 over in the last step. And we have one example left. This one says, looking at the graph to the right, determine the equation of the line in standard form. All right, so you should know how to write the equation of the line in y equals mx plus b form already. And then you just need to rearrange the equations like I showed you in the previous few examples. All right, so how do we write this in y equals mx plus b? Well, you're going to start off with finding your y-intercept. So taking a look at the y-axis, right? Where does your line cross the y? Where's the y-intercept? Right here. It's at -2. Okay, so you want to start with that. And what is your slope? Well, how do you get your slope? You need to find a second point that's nice and clear. There's a nice point here, another nice point here, right? There's lots of points. How do you get from this point to this point? You're going to go up 2, and you're going to go over to the right 1. So the slope of this line is 2 over 1. Okay, so the equation would be y equals mx plus b, so y equals 2 over 1x, subtract 2. Now you're going to take this equation and you're going to rearrange your terms so that it looks like ax plus by plus c equals 0. All I would do here is I would take that y and move it over to the right because we already have a positive 2x. Okay, and then so now you've got your 0 on the left. Just take that 0 and the equal sign and move it over to the right hand side. And that's it. All right, so for homework, if you could do page 4 in the homework booklet, in the homework file that I've already shared with you. And then for the second part, I'd like you to make a TikTok video or just a regular video. It doesn't have to be on TikTok. If you have a TikTok account, go ahead and use it. And I want you to make just a 1-minute video teaching something about standard form. So it could be a video teaching the rules, or it could be an example question that you do, or something different that you come up with. And then I'm going to have you upload that to Flipgrid for me. All right, good luck. Let me know if you need some help.